So when we took this, like we say, valid cognition is a new and incontrovertible knower, right? So if it's a mind that is incontrovertible but not newly incontrovertible, then if it's a mind that is it's a mind but it's not newly incontrovertible, then it becomes this sema mayimpe rigpa, so a non-valid cognition.
That's easy. No, the yawadona. This was calculate chat. Penanga those lana dure. Start to milu mayberry was that milu mayberry was a do. Only that lua chat, lua. Penanga curry sushi, the Sebutana, Mikashe, Tua, Jundis, Jundis. Jundis is Yodozogi, and Tua, the curry Sebutongu. Curry Sebutana, called Kanza Mishijara.
Right.
The Sama Maimba, Dilla, Lua, Sadu Milu Maimbe,
but Sadu. Luerig.
Sadu Milu Maimbe.
Lua Maimbe, okay. So, one way we can look at this, there's two possible ways this can occur. It can be a knower which is new but not incontrovertible, right, or valid. So, for example, we have this possibility to see a yellow snow mountain, right? If people have jaundice or something with their eyes, they can perceive things in different ways. So they'll be perceiving a yellow snow mountain. So even though that's a new mind, like they might be perceiving it for the first moment, but it's not valid or it's not incontrovertible because there's no yellow snow mountain. Yep. Okay. So then we get into these divisions of a knower, which is a non-valid consciousness, as it's referred to here. So we have 5. We have subsequent cognizers correctly assuming consciousness, awareness that an object appears but is not ascertained, doubting consciousness, and wrong consciousness. So today we're going to talk about the first one, subsequent cognizers. So again, we get the exciting definition and divisions. Woohoo! That'll be something new for you guys. So the definition is a knower that realizes what has already been realized. Right, so yeah. Right. So, for example, this is re-apprehending something which has already been known, right, and not forgotten. So, for example, you've come from your house now, and you can remember the stuff in your house, right? So when you remember the stuff in your house, this is not a new apprehension because you've apprehended before, and you haven't forgotten it. So. Okay. So most of what goes on during our day is a bunch of this. Yeah, but when you actually meditate on the path, this becomes very handy. This. Okay, so this toxin topper, so a realizer which realizes that which has already been realized. That sounds pretty weird, but anyway. So basically, if something's been apprehended or realized and hasn't been forgotten, then it comes into this category. Anytime you apprehend it, or realize it, it falls into this category.
share nimbo nyembra share nimbo nyera
like a song.
tanda ina share nimbo di susena le ta di jeshi.
Okay, so this can be anything. This can be sound. It can be the food. It can be something like that. So, for example, if you really have a song you really like and you keep remembering it, like you keep on going around in your head, this is this subsequent cognizer in action. Okay, now we get onto the divisions, of which there is 3. So there's directly perceiving subsequent cognizers, conceptual subsequent cognizers, and subsequent cognizers that are neither of the two. Okay, Yep. So we've already talked about these direct and conceptual cognizers. So we've covered that, but just briefly, a direct cognizer is like an eye consciousness seeing things, right? Like seeing the cup, seeing the phone, seeing whatever it sees. So that's an example of a direct cognizer. Right. Blue color, yeah. Okay. Right. So we get onto the illustrations, which are also on page 33, about halfway down. So when we're talking about these 5, Okay. So it's here, but this is a general illustration of a subsequent cognizer, which is the second moment of a sense direct perceiver apprehending blue. Oh yeah, direct, yeah. Okay, so we have these direct and conceptual subsequent cognizers, but and when we talk about the direct subsequent cognizers, then there's 5 of those. So directly perceiving subsequent cognizers that are sense direct powers, directly perceiving subsequent cognizers that are mental direct perceivers, that are self-knowing direct perceivers, that are yogic direct perceivers, and that are none of these 4, but still a subsequent cognizer. Yep. Okay, so we take the second moment of an eye consciousness apprehending blue, for an example, right? This is the first illustration here. Of a sense direct perceiver apprehending blue, if you want the exact wording. So basically what's happened here is in the first moment of this sense direct perceiver apprehending blue, at that point it's a valid cognizer because it's new and incontrovertible. But in the second moment of this apprehension, it's still incontrovertible, but it's no longer new, or it's still valid, but it's no longer new, because the first moment it was new, therefore the second moment of that perception, it can no longer be new. It can only be new for the first moment. After that, it becomes a subsequent cognizer, right? So this, if we look at the definition, a knower that realizes what has already been realized, the blue's already been realized, so in the second moment, it becomes realizing something which has already been realized. Yep, we're good? Sweet.
그죠. 다 되지. 다들네 니와디 신신시회 다 이용원의 주에 제시되라. 신신시회 뭐시 계지 니와다 왜라도. 다다 뭐 신신시회에서 감대지라고 그랬어요. 아저 공격. 아니 신내 더 신내로. 신신시회 당부 신내마다 나나다. 지나다 그래다 신내 더 보고요. 신내 더.
Okay.
아니 신내 더 되잖아. 아니 쌤이 누가 좀 자고 와. 아니 누가 좀 자더니 바르베 쌤도 간데간데 이미 가득 신고요. 먼저 퍼블 믹다 나시 비 먼저 쌤디 미싱이 쌤로 가득 다도.
Okay, right.
예제 지금 말에 좀제 좀 말에 가득라 미베지 쌤디 관계도 쌤디 야고도 쌤도 제가도 상호하고 계지 담보디 신시시는 무시죠. 근데 계지 니버디 아니 제시 잡고요. 하고 다다 잡고라고.
Okay, so now, when we get onto the second one, a direct perceiver, a direct perceiving subsequent cognizer, that is a mental direct perception. We get onto this. The example is the second moment of a clairvoyance knowing another's mind. So, when we talk about this clairvoyance, we're talking about this ability that meditators have. So, once you have calm abiding meditation, then your mind becomes very powerful and you get the ability to directly perceive the mind of others. So you don't have to ask questions, you don't have to analyze, you can directly see the other person's mind and know whether they're good or bad, or know the aspects of the other person's mind directly through your meditation power. So the second moment of that becomes a subsequent cognizer because it's no longer new. Right? The same logic that was for the color blue.
다제가 신의 타고인데 다 신심시가 지고 말이야. 그래서 공자변데. 아니 겨와마 맞다. 겨와마 무슨 또. 제가 먼저 답에 게라시 몰라. 캠프 직매 분석서로 별라. 라마 게라시 뭐 쇼정으로.
Jigme pencil.
직매 분석서.
디카기라. 냉마 카기. 오케이.
그런데 게라시 뭐래. 제가 그런게 경험하죠. 야, 지식경은 무엇이 또 경험하게 하고 그런 거. 나 디아로 샤워 겨울이셔. 나 차기 겨울이 사제된 데지는 나 겨울이셔. 그런 라고요. 무엇이 또. 근데 신의 tom나 네 공개인지 수수심디게 경험하는 그런 거 경험하게 챙기도 소요.
Right, so through the power of, like, once you have this calm abiding, you don't only have like this ability to see other people's minds, you have a vast perception. For example, you can see all or a lot of your previous lifetimes, right? So there was an example of this Nyingma Lama, Khenpo Jigme Phuntsog, who could remember 500 of his previous lives. So he could remember and describe them and say, well, you know, when he was born as a deer, when he was born as a bird, and he could describe each of his 500 lifetimes. So if you have this power of meditation, then you can remember many of your previous lifetimes.
He told birds live, he body belong to the life. And then he said at that time, when as the experience, he looked on the mountain. The ocean and everything 예, 캠보디 깨라지 뭐 아니 미세 그런 게 공격 딱 겨울음지 공도 이모들아지 겨울음지 나게 가는 쇼그래서 다들 겨울음지 그런 게 바보전에서 보면라
디닝말라메데 오케이
이 제일 빠르던데요 사실 빠르요 빠른 거네 있냐면 그런 아니 그런 게 밑에서는 땅아 라마 제기도 결혼도 면함겼어. 미카실에 제 니마 된지 그런 게 난가에 간다. 여러분 진짜 그.
난 컨셉 파이래.
빠지도 빠지는 거네 이나면 간시 빠는데 가시도.
right.
이나
So 미상마지 타.
미상마 제기요 말 가시 제기요 말. 이나 그런 걸 기부 주면 또 결혼도 수수 면함겼나? 라마 제기도 마 제기도 결혼도 면함겼어. 미상마 제레스 소다
right.
탕고라데 미치 베지 미 봄인데 니마 둔다지
And in Mikashi Golden Okay.
Okay.
Right. So he was quite as like a special lama, and there was the story of how one time he was meditating and he had vision of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, right, through doing this Chenrezig practice. And at this time there was like 100,000. Okay, there was 100,000 people there as well. Or he advised to see 100,000 people. If you make these prayers, like if you make sincere prayers to meet or to see, His Holiness, then you will be able to. And for many of them, actually through this sincere prayer and this Chenrezig practice, they actually were able to meet or get this vision of His Holiness. Okay.
Lama 제세에 제라 아니 수술에 똑같은 일이 있고 있어요.
Yeah.
뭐 가주 라마지 가서 라마지 체니에 제마서 군도 손가. 가주 라마지 별. 라마디 체니. 라마디 다고 한다면서 신이든지 공자라. 공자 코란게 라마 찾아. 코란 간도연 시제인가 봐. 추주 니제지. 라마 참아 시제 제대 추주 니제.
Right.
And the jailer and Koran be teaching Kazara, our Digi chum. Doboros, and a Koran is some magic down, Koran, Yawanija.
Okay, 200 lives. Yeah.
Just a dog in the jail or
Right. So there's many stories of how it's possible to, meet or have visions of these lamas, right? And after meeting them in this way, then it's possible to attain realizations right through this meeting. So there's one Kagi Lama as well. I guess I can't remember the name. But for 2 hours he got visions of all his lamas right around him, and many lamas right. And then after that he had deep realizations, and subsequently was able to remember 200 of his previous lives.
There's the same 먼저 단다 셈니가 데 토데라 기신시어 나지 산지 우리 요래 근데 산지에 대기 문제 이런다 아니 돼 아니 가서 그거 진짜에서 너 점제는데도 그래서 초어서 말에 무시지 예 디나지 딜 점제 되래 뭐네게 다다데 먼저다 라고냐 두고요
Okay. So, our minds all have this power, but the problem is with us, all our energy is like dissipated, or our power's all dissipated. So we're like little children, banging our train around or playing with our toys, right? So because we're so busy playing with our toys and messing around with all this nonsense, we can't actually actualize this power that our mind has.
이 톰네 인지민지 남토고 말 가셔야 남토고 쓰고라
디 톰람
톰람 봐 먼저래
소소디
신의 톰나 디질레 신신시베 뭐시 문에지 된게 겨워가지 망고 차야 근데 인지민지 남토고 거와들 님부메 통으로 신의도 톰나니 겨워가지도 톰나 거와를 님부메 통으로다 뭐네 춘도다 아니 디지 동해도 통으로 동해 단단한데 동해디 미 동해대 뭐 생겨요 말하지 동해 용기래 대 야고래 와서 맞아 동해라 예중께 도움도 돼 예중께 맞는데 남게도가 말아 근데 인지게 도야 그래요 말 인지게 도가 말 동해대 대화를 했는데 동해대 대화를 대배디기래서는 동해를 전적에 써야게 그래요 말아 제가 인지 맞아야 돼 가려면 동해 뭐뭐 신고 동해대 대화 진행이요
Right, so if we can cultivate this come biting and have these memories of our previous lives, then it becomes very easy to see like the essencelessness of samsara, or the pointlessness of samsara, because we can remember all our rebirths as animals and so forth, and all the suffering we experienced then. Right now we think, being a human is not that bad, right? And we're pretty confused because all of the suffering, we think this suffering that we're experiencing, we think of it as happiness. But the reality is it's not this way. So if we have these realizations, we can see that very easily. But right now, it's a bit tricky for us.
Tricky for us.
Oh, it is. It's tricky for me anyway.
Tricky like the color.
Tricky. Kalikabudu.
아,
Kalikabudu.
어디가? 신선시에 뭐시?
Yeah.
네, 계속 니와디. 다 먼저 대 일이. 이것이도 제가 원실을 토고요 말. 제가 시내 범죄자가 아니 시내 범죄자가 일을 공부라. 시내 범죄자가 스스미과 지 검제 아니 이 디셈데 땡고서 보여요. 제가 시내데 일을 미시 지금 이 원실을 토배요 말. 제가 영어도 주에 아니 제시셔야 되겠다고.
You know to give a gesture. Okay, yep. Directly.
이게 무슨 래? 다 이거는 이게 무슨 이를 똑바다 무슨 일이야? 이거는 직접 되셔. 이 뭐지? 이게 무슨 라고?
Yigi nonsen tokpa.
말하면 이게 무슨 제시라고 그래.
Oh, right.
이게 무슨 라 똑바 많이 걸어. 이거는 똑바 많이 받을 거고.
Mind jeshi. Right. Okay. So this is a mind mental perception, right? This second example, the directly perceiving subsequent cognizers that are mental direct perceptions. So this one example, this would be based on Shine, right? And Shine is a mental understanding or a mental perception, right? Or development. It's nothing to do with the eye. Mental consciousness, I should say. It's nothing to do with our other sense perceptions like the eye, direct perceiver, or anything like that. It's about using this mental perception to stabilize it on one object. When your mind stabilizes it on one object, then it has the power to directly perceive, directly realizes other minds, right? And so the second moment of this becomes a mind which becomes a subsequent cognizer which directly realizes the mind, directly realizes a mind. The noson tokbe semgi noson tokbe cheshiro. Shenji-sen. Another's mind. Sorry, yeah, that makes more sense. A mind doesn't, because you can perceive your own mind. So, a subsequent cognizer which directly apprehends or realizes another's mind. Right. Okay. Okay, just yeah. So the third one is we're getting a directly perceiving subsequent cognizer that are self-knowing direct perceivers. So first of all, we're going to have to talk about what this self-knower is, right? And we'll talk about a valid consciousness. So the first moment of a self-knower, because we can't understand what a subsequent self-knower is until we understand what a self-knower is. So we'll talk about that first. Right. So there's a lot of words, but let's see if we can work it out. So we're talking about a self-knower, right? Now, when we mean a self-knower, it's like literally a knower that knows itself, which probably doesn't help you much. But it's a mind basically which apprehends its own mind. Well, it's not necessarily. It's like itself, but it might be a different aspect of the same mind. But it's the same mind. It's like, as opposed to the previous one we just talked about, where you're perceiving another's mind. This time you're perceiving your own mind, but it's your mind perceiving your mind, basically. Or yeah, does it make sense?
Yeah, example.
Okay, we'll get some examples in you that might help. Right.
지난 파워 통도에 나가. 내 파워 통도 나가. 아니 파워 통도 나지. 니 나랑 내 줄라 파워십에 쉐바지요 내 하고도.
What, Popa?
파워십에 쉐바.
A mind that knows should be shepherd. A mind that
내
knows
줄라.
cup.
파워하고 송 나가. 파워하고 니기 쉐바지. 파워하고 니기 쉐바지. 파워하고 니 쉐바지 완시체. 완시 고란 여하고 니 쉐바지 거다 간다.
Okay, that's good. So the Popa Hakogi shepherd the one
그거
sheep.
유로.
Yep.
디하고 그 유전차로 내 줄 완시 여로.
Yeah, Yulchin.
나랑 줄 파워시 완시 여지 게시.
Okay, so I know I have a eye consciousness that apprehends cup.
유전이 와들다.
Okay. I have I sense consciousness perceiving cup. Right. So, for example, you have an eye consciousness that perceives cup, right? And you have this kind of understanding. Somebody asks you, "Can you see the cup?" And you say, "Yes." You see the cup. You know that. So you have this mind that apprehends cup or knows cup. So this cup being the object, and then the mind being the subject. But you also have a mind that can understand. I know I have an eye consciousness perceiving cup, and this is this self-knower.
유전요. 그 유녀다. 유전요니 파워시 지.
Oh, okay. So Yulchin Tang.
유나 유전 사람을 비전 거든.
Yulchin.
디 유로. 어디 유로. 저 파워시에 미시 디 유전로.
Yeah. I con is Yulchin. Yeah.
유전로. 당에 줄 유전 파워시에 미시 요게 시. 나랑 하고 그래. 나랑 줄.
I know.
나 줄 파워시에 미시지 요래. 나 하고 그래. 그 하고 니디 라리라고 한다.
Okay. So you have the object, which is the cup. Then you have the subject, which is this I sense consciousness apprehending the cup. Right? Then you have a mind which recognizes that you have an I consciousness apprehending cup. This is the self-know that they're talking about. This is an example of it.
그랑 하고 그래라 되다.
Because it's knowing itself. It's the mind knowing itself.
근데 냠뇨리 experience 와지래.
Yeah. And you have this experience.
알아서 experience를 미시다 김쟁 미시다 깨지 태고 말에 김쟁 상담 말에 수수수 냠뇨하고다.
Right.
디하고 디나지라니 디소리지래다. 그랑 냠뇨.
Yeah, so sometimes you just have you have experience where you can know something and you don't have to ask anybody, you don't have to reason it out. You just know. And this is an example of this can be an example of this self-know.
네, 답변은 될라 디샤도 미시서 냠스뉴라리 무슨 계지니발라도 미시.
Okay, so we got
the
okay. Yeah. So the example of this self-knower is the second moment of a self-knowing direct perceiver experiencing in eye consciousness and so forth.
다 가르라고서나 이 미시 당고디 포통으로 포통이 다 미시디 님들라 그런 신경 써가지고 라니 계지 당고래.
Yep, right. Okay, that's good. So you have this eye consciousness apprehending cup. Then necessarily along with that, according to this school, the Sutra school, there comes a consciousness recognizing this eye consciousness apprehending cup automatically in the same moment, simultaneously. When this eye consciousness apprehending cup arises, there's a self-knower, a self-known consciousness that, like a consciousness that understands there is or recognizes this eye consciousness apprehending cup. I sense consciousness apprehending cup. So the first moment of that is what we call a self-knowing direct valid perceiver or conception. Consciousness. Sema. Yeah. So a self-knowing direct valid consciousness.
미시 계진 이와디 제시직 차로다. 아니 미시 계진 이와다 님도에 왜 라릭데 제시 차로. 볼 제시 이유.
Okay. So then, in the next moment, so you have the first moment of this I sense conscious apprehending the cup, and you have the first moment of the self-knower apprehending this I consciousness apprehending cup. Then in the second moment, you have the second moment of the I consciousness apprehending cup, which is a subsequent cognizer, and you have the second moment of the mind which recognizes the I consciousness apprehending cup, and that is also a subsequent cognizer, but it's a self-knowing subsequent cognizer. Yeah, are we okay? I mean, it's a lot of words that sound pretty similar. Yeah, it's a bit tricky. It's a bit hard to understand. Are we clear? Like, because there's no point in moving on. Yes, Jen.
Do they arise simultaneously, or does the self-knower arise after the mental consciousness?
What? Which
Is
mental?
the first moment of an I consciousness
Yeah.
perceiving an object?
Yeah.
Is that arising at the same time as the first moment of a self-knowing perceiver?
So the first moment of an I consciousness apprehending cup, does it arise the same time as this first moment of the self-knower apprehending the I consciousness apprehending cup? Yeah. So, 법에서 뵙맥셔요, 요래로. 디 캐치 탐보. 디 냠도 디 법에서 뵙맥셔 랑렉. 두냐명이래 or 캐치 제명이래? Yeah, no, simultaneous. So the self-knower and the consciousness always arise simultaneously. So the first moment, you have two direct valid cognitions. Because so you have the I consciousness apprehending cup, first moment, and the self-knower apprehending the I consciousness apprehending cup, first moment. Because remember, a valid cognition has to be new, which has to be the first moment. Right? So that's the first moment. You have two valid cognitions arising simultaneously. And then in the second moment, you have two subsequent cognizers arising simultaneously.
Okay.
All right, are we clear? Can we go? Yeah. Everybody's happy? Nice. Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So the I consciousness is used in the example, but it's valid for all the other sense consciousnesses. Sound, taste, and so forth. So if you're hearing sound, first moment of hearing a new sound, you have the direct valid conception along with the direct, the self-knowing valid consciousness, right? So you have the two in the first moment, same as with the I consciousness, exactly the same. The second moment, you have two subsequent cognizers arising. The second moment of the ear consciousness apprehending sound, and the second moment of the self-knower. Right? Yep, we good? Okay. So now we have the direct perceiving subsequent cognizer that is a yogic direct perceivers, and the second moment of the uninterrupted path of the path of seeing. Yeah. Any concept the Rangri Tanglam Gangsa the Rangri Any concept Sangi Rangri Concept Kellen Sangi Rangri
Sanjay.
The devil.
Sanjay lo Rangri Shiri Tanya Mela.
Yeah, okay.
Sanjay Sara. Tanglam Yore.
Okay, so I was just asking a question of my own. For this sutra school, do they believe these Arya beings have this self-knower? And Geshe says yes. But when I said, does Buddha have it? He says probably not.
그들라 디요 말이 장리 신리세요.
Yeah, so the Buddha, from a Buddha, he doesn't have this self-knower and other knower.
디 단위 내라를.
Right.
셀라.
So, yeah, so for him, for everybody else, they have, Buddha doesn't have.
다들 네 통남락다. 통남에서 갈라버려. 통남에서가. 다 동반이 남의 무슨도 통về 남들로 통남에서 거대시나. 남의 무슨도 통. 남의 살도 통이 통마 살도 무슨도 통마 통이 되는 통남에서 그래라.
So when we talk about this path of seeing, what are they seeing? They're seeing emptiness. And how are they seeing it? They're seeing it directly. So when you have the first moment of the direct yogic perception of emptiness is the first moment you enter the path of seeing.
다들 하고 람 윤을 깨워 신에 당어와도 타고니 저러다. 신에.
Yeah.
당고 람 윤을 깨워라. 람 윤을 깨 모두 빼나다. 알아서이나 대과식을 취해지는 산재 고문도에 람시고 산재 고문도에 람마요. 지진이 천남저는 통남고는 밀어람스 람마시라. 다 이제도 다 디제기 천남사에 되면서 잔주그 쌤 통마께서는 디제기 천남터로 열어. 잔주그 쌤 통마께서는
Teaching is soglam. Soglam, yep.
Preparation.
Yeah, preparation. No, accumulation.
어디 accumulation. 다디 잔주그 쌤 통마께거든. 잔주그 쌤 마지막에 보나 신행에 와도 타고 신행 맞던 나는 용어요. 신행.
Okay.
신행에 와도 그거요.
So,
그거다.
yeah. So, for this, to enter this Mahayana part, like the 5 parts, to enter the first is the path of accumulation, you need calm abiding, right? Because on this path to Buddhahood, we're on this path to Buddhahood, and we say that it contains 5 parts: the path of accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, and no more learning, right? Now, when we talk about the Mahayana path of accumulation, you enter that when you arise uncontrived bodhicitta. But to arise uncontrived bodhicitta, you need to first have calm abiding.
다 인사래 배나 신내유나 이 교황아지도 시행으로 와.
Yep.
교황아지 시행선은 심지 탐제 랑도 마치nyong을 써야 돼. 뺄래로시다.
Right. So, for example, when you have calm abiding, you start to remember your past lives. Then thinking things like, "Oh, all sentient beings have been my mother," becomes very easy because you can actually remember it.
다들 제대로 아니 심지 탐제 랑게 빠리 친구이 봤다. 근데 상다지 심지 신lem이 닝지 친구 깨야래라고 차와.
Yeah, and then through remembering the kindness of these beings, it becomes very easy to arise this great compassion.
다 닝지 친구이나 아니 잔주 쌤들 다란다. 깨 당이요만.
Yeah, and once you have great compassion, then it's not very difficult to generate bodhicitta.
잔주쌤 통화제 왔다. 디제이 처럼 차서를 와. 디제이 남로 쇼를.
And then when you develop this uncontrolled bodhicitta, then you enter the Mahayana path of accumulation.
나 디제이 처럼 쇼를. 다 산제 고만 타발라. 고방으로.
Right.
고마만 산제 고마 토도 말아.
So then once you enter this path of accumulation, you're on the path to Buddha, but first you have to abandon samsara. You can't attain Buddhahood if you don't abandon samsara.
제가 먼저 되게 기후 체벌 남녀네 지어라. 기후 딩다. 기후 충을 남녀네 지어서가. 달달래서한테 기후 체벌 남녀 산제 심지 탐제지 산제 고마터야 돼. 전주 쌤냐면 제 기후 체벌 남녀라. 다디 산제 고마터로 코어방도 아니 코어수 수 코어방으로 내 코어방으로 와. 아니 타바 되니는 기후 딩이냐면 되리도. 타바 되니냐면 지야디 밀을 되려면 든든을 되는 지도 말아. 그게 공야도 말아. 기도서로 사야도 동야 점점을 내가면도. 아니 밀을 다 저도 밀을 된다고도 요즘에 남기를 받을래다. 해당해서 요즘에 남는 상담 요즘다 요즘으로 남대가랑 북 임돌이야 되는 거라.
Right. So in order to kind of enter this great scope practice, you need to first have developed this small and medium scope, right? So, for example, if you the result or the path, this aspiration to attain enlightenment, this is the aspiration of a great scope practitioner, right? But in order to attain enlightenment, you need to abandon samsara, and abandoning samsara is the motivation of a medium scope practitioner, right? That's their aspiration. But in order to abandon samsara, you need to have a precious human rebirth. You can't do it as an animal or in any of the other realms. So you need to attain a precious human rebirth, and this is the aspiration of a small scope practitioner. So it shows here that in order to cultivate this great part motivation, you need to have this perfected the small and medium scope first.
아니 먼저 다 깨워지마 밀루토를 맨날 잡아만 안하면 단다 밀루토데라
Right.
안하도 르데니 밀루데라 다 르데니 텐조 텐지 쳐버렸어
Right.
텐조 텐지 푸시스 의미가
Tencho. Oh.
텐조 텐지
Okay.
텐조 텐지에서 밀루 대화제에서 저어주 상으로 지상 먼저 깨워지마 밀루토셔서 맨날 잡아라
Right.
깨워지마 맨날 잡아만 단다 먼저 밀루토데요
Okay. Gotcha.
네 텐데 뭐 쳐버렸을 때 텐조 텐지 될래
Right. So, it's not necessary that we might pray to attain a precious human rebirth, right? Because basically we already have one. And if we really recognize this, then we just need to use the one we've got. We don't necessarily need another one. If we use the one we've got effectively, we'll be sweet as. So we don't need to necessarily worry about praying for another one if we're going to make use of this one. If we're not going to make use of this one, then we probably better get praying, though.
다들 단다 표정 마셔나나 아니 지왕에 남직이 메르스 지왕이다고 될래. 다들 루덴데라다 밀루덴데 아 단다다 저 지금에 제메 저 지금 지왕이다고 지왕에 남직이 메시지도 와.
Right.
대저든지 지왕이다고 단다
Right.
공개다
Oh, okay. But, so this is when we need this understanding of death and permanence. Because if we're wandering around thinking, oh, it's all good, I won't really worry about practicing Dharma now, I'll do it a bit later, then, we could get into problems. So this is why the next, after practicing, we meditate on death and permanence, so that we kind of really utilize this time now.
어떤 텐데스 제어도 아니 다 시도도 배샤다 수수 빈자다 수수 가는데 유 빈자다 저거라 차고 치고라 저거 치고라
Right.
상마 샤르 상마 르 샤르 아니 차고 치야미도 왔다 근데 다시 두두 가래 다 취해야 레 야고 사이는 대화기 밀루 토고래 달루 토고래 레 멤버 사이는 야와이다 들루도 해 진두다 다 취해야 되나 레셔스 레데가 상대라
Then we think about, okay, now we've accepted we're going to die, right? So that's a step. And then we go, but what's going to happen at that time, right? Like all these people I know, are they going to be able to help me? All this money I have, is that going to be able, like even this body I have, is that going to be able to help me? Am I going to be taking any of it with me? No, all of this stuff we have to leave behind. But what do we carry with us? Well, we carry our Dharma practice, which is our good and our karma, right? Our good and our bad karma is what we carry with us into the next life. So then we start to meditate on the third step, which is this law of karma, cause and effect. Okay, so then we've got to abandon samsara, but not just samsara, the root of samsara. Right, which is the fog or obscuration that grasps the true existence. The ignorance that grasps the true existence is better.
짐바나시 퇴는 내기는 데버트거래. 유 데버트에지 뭐 당물로 아니 다음에 그래 다시 뭐도 그래 때문에 총을해서 동반이 된다고 상담.
Right. So how do we abandon this grasping of true existence? Well, it's through realizing how things are tenjuna, are not truly existent, that are dependent arising, that they're empty, and so forth. So through this realization, that's where we abandon this grasping of true existence.
that's 이제 총남네. 아니 이제 상담이 아니 델라믹베 딱 신의 공중토로 돈이 담보도 규제를 되는 것도 상당으로 된중으로
Right.
다 제바섬을 차고라. 근데 계속 이번에 제시다. 제시. 도가 제시.
So the first moment of this mind, non-samarera.
말이 도가 제바섬을.
Yeah, the non-sam. Okay, so the first moment of this mind that realizes emptiness, not not directly realize this. This is not like entering the path of seeing just yet. But the first moment of this mind that realizes emptiness comes about through this inferential valid cognition. And then the second moment becomes this subsequent cognizer of a mind realizing emptiness, but not directly realizing emptiness.
다드네 동이 미가 공중 토면이라. 아니 졸람나 도야다. 졸람네 졸람. 동이 미가 공중 토라.
Okay, and when you familiarize yourself with this, and you get this gomjung, this realization of emptiness based on this meditation that arises through this meditation, like this when we talk about hearing, reflecting, meditation, when you get this, then you enter the path of preparation, Mahayana path of preparation.
다드네 공자면 먼저 빼라고 샤르면 돼.
Tek chen.
Tikjen,
okay, we're talking about Mahayana.
Tikjen.
Right.
먼저 내 tikjen 돌아나다. 다디 아니 공자다. 공자. 그 신내도 자로. 그다 먼저 디 추녀과디 여지고 녀과디 파세 다 피다자고 피다. filter디다 공자고다. 이제 또 추도 장마서요. 다 동니게 던지도 파세디네. 동니 무슨 뜻
Okay. So at this stage, you're still realizing emptiness through this generic image because it's an inferential valid cognizer. So you're still going via a generic image, right? And as you familiarize yourself with this meditation, it becomes like a filter, and it filters out this generic image. And as the generic image becomes less and less and less, you become closer to a direct perception of emptiness. And when you reach that point, that first moment of that direct perception of emptiness where you're no longer going through this generic image, that's the path of seeing. Yeah. So that... Oh, and this is this uninterrupted path of the path of seed. That's what it's talking about here. But there's the first moment of it now, right? Not the chishimare, non-sumre. So we're still in the first moment, so it's not a subsequent cognizer yet. And then the second moment, it becomes a subsequent cognizer. So
You mean the second moment without the generic image?
yeah. So generic image gets less and less and less and less and less and less and less. Then gone, becomes a direct yogic perception. First moment of that, path of seeing. First moment of the path of seeing. That's a direct, valid cognizer, right? Then the next second moment becomes a subsequent cognizer. But it's not a conceptual understanding, it's direct perception. But it's the second moment of it. So that's all of that was to get to this direct, the second moment of an uninterrupted path of the path of seeing, uninterrupted path of the path of seeing. Yeah, so there's a lot of words to get there, but we got there, so that's good. At least we got there. Wow, we haven't actually got there. We've just talked about getting there. We've talked about how to get there. Right, so now we got a plan. All we need to do is first develop karma abiding, then get bodhicitta, then understand emptiness, then meditate on, and then realize no problem. We'll be sweet. Karma abiding, not first. First karma abiding, yeah.
Bodhicitta's first. Bodhicitta, uncontrolled bodhicitta is the entry to the path.
Yeah, but for that you need karma abiding.
Not for the path
Yeah.
of accumulation.
Saglam, right? Path of accumulation. Shinai tang junction simni gogireru. Yeah, you need both. Okay. So previous to enter the path of accumulation, you need great compassion and karma abiding. And then when you've got bodhicitta and karma abiding together, at that moment you enter the path of accumulation, Mahayana path of accumulation.
I thought karma abiding is path of preparation. and the
데
renunciation.
돈이는 왜 시네 돈이는 왜 공정을 시네만 돈이는 왜 공정 토바당 저런 도레스
No, tongue.
돈이는 왜 공정
Okay, so the gomchok, the
돈이는
understanding or the realization of emptiness that arises from meditation is the beginning of the path of accumulation. So you have, to explain what's meant by this, you have the understanding that arises from hearing, you have the understanding that arises from contemplation, and you have the realization that arises from meditation. This is the entered path of preparation, but it's not the direct realization yet, right?
So it's just a good understanding.
No, it's a realization. It's just not a direct,
Oh.
right?
토바
Yeah, it's a conceptual. It's yeah, it's a conceptual realization, but it's still a realization.
That's path of preparation.
Path of preparation. Yeah.
Yeah, so accumulation is bodhicitta and renunciation.
No, bodhicitta and kamabodhi.
No, we just said the path of accumulation, the entryway to that is uncontrived renunciation and uncontrived bodhicitta. And then you just told us that the entry to the path of preparation is kamabodhi.
Yeah. Well, no. It's not kamabodhi. It's the conceptual realization of emptiness that arises from meditation.
Yeah, okay. That's preparation.
That's preparation.
Yeah. So
Accumulation is uncontrived bodhicitta, which is bodhicitta and kamabodhi together.
No, it's renunciation.
The Tsoglam, you're talking about Mahayana path of accumulation? So the Tekchengi Tsoglam, the Nejong Tang Shine Nyamdo?
시네겐도 뭘 시네도 이중 마지막은 시네도 시네 예반 뭐는 제일 소남 티징기 소남 타와다 티징기 람타와 되냐
Yeah.
뭐라 티징기 람다 티징기 전죽세 마지 코나 시네다
내중.
닝지sem고 이중 타와다 전죽심 타와 되냐 티징
Okay. So you need, previous to the path of accumulation, you need calm abiding and great compassion, right? And when you have that great compassion becomes bodhicitta, then you enter the path of accumulation. At the same time, you develop renunciation. At the same time, you have this direct, but you need the bodhicitta to enter the path of accumulation.
So our point was bodhicitta's first.
In order to say, in other words, say
Okay, we're talking uncontrived bodhicitta here, not that comes after karma abiding. Okay.
So can you clarify that you definitely need karma abiding to be able to develop uncontrived bodhicitta?
Yeah. The Jangjasimni uncontrived hokudo. So yeah, the spontaneous, the Jangjasim tam shine nipa, the Jangjasim shimpamin kare the perkit the tungimundo. Pena the Nyanla Jangjasim some year.
저 군저 전주쌤 말에 대 멤버스 데가 가서 그럼 신시대 쌤지세요. 그럼 신시대 쌤지세요. 대 쌤지 말아. 쌤지 신이상 말아.
Okay.
저면 쌤지로. 전주쌤들 좀 많이 받이 거라.
Right.
어디시요?
So we have contrived and uncontrived bodhicitta. But if you look at the definition of bodhicitta,
좀 많이 받아.
it has to be uncontrived. And the Jumamayimba Shinagogire, right?
신에게 와도 원도.
Right. So before you can have that, you need to have karma abiding first. Yeah.
Before you need karma abiding.
Before you can have uncontrived bodhicitta, first you need karma abiding.
저도 삼분단다 하고 그래. 쌤 되면은 쌤지 간데스 키워 그래.
Right.
쌤
So,
되면요.
yeah, if you look at the definition of bodhicitta, if you don't have a stable mind, how can you... Yeah, it'll be like it comes and goes, right?
Yeah, but it's just a matter of complete kamabodhi because there's all sorts of stages of kamabodhi.
그런데 무슨 게다 저는 남천자지라 그래. 내가 저 흉다 리고 참면은 흉 배제 도고나 나라. 네 리메도 그래. 제발 전화데 우스겹데 전화가 남천사시 더불다.
So the bath we're talking about comes from the scriptures and the reasoning.
Okay, so
But if you want to just do your own little path, then who knows where you're going to end up. But that's
전화가 더블 천사시 되그랬어.
right. So you'll get some pretty strange realizations.
especially 필리버스 파트.
no, you were saying part of preparation. Accumulation. So anyway, you're taking first concentration. You're saying we have to
Karma
first
body, yeah.
concentration.
See, did Joseph Sim get seen you?
전주쌤 신이들 데려가. 라ም로즈 주 신년도서 봐시 티제랑 저거 주에 티제 남지 또 얘기 나면서 좀 보시오래.
God, I can't remember all of that. Holy crap.
남자 저와. 남자 저와서 전주쌤 이민래. 토마토 남자 저와.
Namsa Joy.
남자 저와 타발 저러세요디 저러세요디.
Ah, yeah, okay.
실라 순들 되발라 저러 예슬라.
So that,
저러세요다.
yeah, join in, Kari Joy.
신내단 항동.
Ah,
신내단
okay.
항동은 때네 아니 저와디 남자 저와디 토고 예슬라베요.
Okay.
셈딩거나 요로.
Right.
셈딩
So it's like the union of Shinetang Latang. This
신내자면서 항동 보고 해봐.
right. So you need this karma, the union of karma, abiding, special insight. Then Semke.
인생이죠.
Then through that bodhicitta arises. I can't remember like the definition's like about 4 lines long. No way I can remember all that.
Yeah, but we're still assuming that you still haven't said which path it occurs on.
필리버.
But I can't believe that because all our texts and all we've learned up to date was that karma body and special insight, the union of the entryway to the path of joining. And the question that we asked was, what is the entryway to the path of
Accumulation.
지금 처음으로 주고대 가려서 그래.
Chicken salad, soglam, karichin, karigogire, kande jugire.
잔주쌤 깨워래.
Right.
잔주쌤 꾸접선지 깨워다 티질남도 요래 다.
Right. So when you arise uncontrived bodhicitta, you enter the Mahayana path of accumulation.
And so, yeah. So do we have karma binding then or not?
Decapsulate Shine Gogire?
그거는 이거는 요래도 있고.
Yeah, Shine comes before that. Karma binding comes before that.
그런 거 그런데 심지 그런 신라 성리지 제사. 심지 그런 거 신내다 황도지 그래. 심지 그런
Simshi Karanga.
신내다 황도지 신라 성리지 띵 신라 성리지 신내지 제사.
So it has this bodhicitta has this essence of karma binding and special insight.
네.
It has an essence, I agree. But
No, the name.
So that also implies that the first
네,
concentration.
필리버 트워스당.
Okay, he's got a question for you.
저거 제일 좋았어.
He's getting bored with this.
셈지지 셈데샤 셈데.
Right, Sem10. So this awakened mind is a stable mind, right? Tempore, Sem tempore.
셈데 카렐라. 티지 군서 셈지 르덴다 셈데여와. 르게 텐데 도리도 하다 미다 정말 기그레라.
Right.
셈게 텐데 카르고레 셈데샤 셈데 카렐라. 티지 군서 셈데.
So the lutein.
르덴디 도리도 하다 미다 냐와다 이다 정말 기그레.
Right.
르디.
Right.
아 셈지 거와. 티지 군서 셈지 마지 공은 셈지 거라 셈데. 셈덴서. 셈데.
Possess. To possess.
그랬나?
Have. Nga yure.
말이.
The 10 mang tondak mango yure. So temper is stable, right?
내 이기지도 와.
Yeah.
이기도 슈글에 땜으로 와. 당부 슈글도 제대로 이기
Like
되고.
base.
Basis.
Basis. Yeah, basis. Okay.
그것은 이제 어디 셈디 가래라도 뭐.
Okay. So the basis for a body is birth in the 6 realms. Like human beings, that's the basis for birth in the 6 realms is a body. So what's the basis for mind?
부드지더라고.
Semke. What's the Semten get it? So what's the basis for bodhicitta then?
어디?
Great compassion.
Ninja Chembo.
이제 뭐디? 그거 년행기 들어와.
Now that can't be the basis because it's the cause. It's the primary cause. And the cause and effect can't exist simultaneously.
배전은 신내셔야. 신내셔야. 무시셔야. 열도셔야. 무슨 상황 신내 통과 도
So the scriptures say it's calm abiding. Any shimba? Shineta.
Nyerdo dan mushi sa nyerdo.
Nyetok is
Samdegi nyerdo se de shinere. Mushi se de dewe nyomo munju pangwa der. Jigdembe lamro.
right.
Dela nyerdo dan mushi se niyo. Nyerdo se de jigdembe lamro, jigdembe lam.
Right.
Jigdembe lam de la nyerdo se de shinere. Nyerdo de
Oh.
degi ngonye che de dewe nyomo munju pangwa. Dewe nyomo munju pangwa de la mushi se wa. Samdegi nyerdo, samdegi mushi se do.
So something the nyetok the number my inbed the jikting below. The sangegi lamare. So there's this something in Nyetok is like this calm abiding on the worldly path, which is not a Buddhist path. It doesn't lead to enlightenment. Any December? And then there's like genuine calm abiding or concentration, which is the abandonment of attachment. Dochagi nyomong. No. Manifestation, like direct manifestation. It's the abandonment of the manifestation of attachment. So you need these two. So you need jikta and nika. So you need both of these concentrations. You need both of these types of concentrations. Because yeah, I think right. But okay, like yeah, leaving aside this kind of technical stuff from the debate sort of point of view, you need to think about it. If your mind's not stable, how are you going to have stable bodhicitta? How are you going to have bodhicitta if your mind's just not stable? No chance. Yeah, because you might get something and then immediately it's gone. Then no chance of you know. Oh, we're running out of time. Okay, we're running out of time. So Chikmang will go get it. Di nyamdu mayin gangro mayimba. Di ngapa le bro. So so the first one, for example, is the second moment of a direct perceiver. So eye consciousness, perceiving cup, second moment, that's an example of the fifth one. The directly perceiving subsequent cognizer that are none of these four. Right? Like if you think about it, that's none of the other four, so it must be the fifth one. And it's still a subsequent cognizer. Okay, and we'll talk about conceptual subsequent cognizers next week. So we'll stop here.
So page 31.